Your man Diamond K in here, of course, the Diamond K Show on firetelevision.com, radioonfire.com. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. And a lot of things going on, a lot of things that we need to get to today. Of course, uh, President Biden is he is something else. He is something else. And here's the thing: it's not like we did not know what we were getting going in. There has been a lot of history with regards to Biden and his ways. You know what I mean? This is nothing new. So when we see the things that he is doing, attempting to do, stumbling his way through, this should not be a surprise. Any type of military action that actually involves uh, Biden getting involved in it and giving direction to the troops makes me nervous. Makes me nervous. Of course, we are talking about the rising tensions. Something happened in the last few days because the U.S. has ordered 8,500 troops on heightened alert. Now, of course, we don't expect that they're going to tell us all the time that something happens, right? That we're not expecting them to do that. And a lot of times you're going to hear mainstream media ask, what's going on with this? What is going on with that? How many troops here? Where are they coming from? Different things, stuff that we can't, really expect to get answered. But the questions are still asked, right? So the questions are still asked. And the other thing that's so surprising to me is that when the president talks about things, you would think that there is some type of preparation that happens with his team. You're going to get this question. Here's how you answer that. You may get this question. Here's how we're going to answer that. But he gets questioned, inflation, and an inflation question throws him off. He's cussing and stuff. Inflation. But maybe the protected class, people that are eating high off on the hog, inflation is something they're like, inflation? What is that? I declare, what is inflation? But regular people understand inflation, right? Regular people don't like inflation, but Biden, when asked by Fox News reporter about inflation, he definitely wasn't ready for it, and he was insulted by the mere mention of inflation. Like, how dare you ask me about inflation? Like, clearly, this old guy does not get out much, and people that do get out much don't seem to tell him what is happening in the real world. And this is the guy that we voted in to be the president of the United States. Of course, just tuning in, you man Diamond K. Here on the program, we deliver the biggest political and trending news stories of the day with original reporting and interviews from across the country. Show us fun, show us upbeat, but I also have to expose what is really going on in this country. I will give you politics from an independent perspective. If a Republican is wrong, I'm going to call that out. If a Democrat is wrong, I'm going to call that out too. Join me weekdays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. for the Diamond K Show on firetelevision.com, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, share. So we are talking about the heightened tensions that are happening. As I said, the Pentagon announced that 8,500 troops are on high alert, American troops, potentially to deploy to Europe as part of a NATO response force. We know that there are growing tensions between Russia and NATO. Now, if you're wondering, okay, yeah, you attack against one, attack against them all, got you, all that kind of stuff. And I have my thoughts on this. I don't think that we need to get involved to this degree. Talked with my father about this. Of course, he disagrees totally. He thinks that we have to honor our commitments. Blah 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 blah. All right, and NATO, and we want to honor NATO, and I get you on that, right? So we say we're going to honor NATO, and there is a country that's being threatened. Da 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 da. Right? All right, so that's cool. Got you on that. But here's the thing. For folks that subscribe to that, for war hawks, right? Talking about Ukraine. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. Let me say it again. Ukraine's not a member of NATO. All this stuff doesn't even apply. All right? Yeah, okay, yeah, we don't like Putin, and yeah, he's aggressive with some countries that are around him. But the justification for this is what exactly? We don't like Putin. He shouldn't be doing that. We should have smacked his hand before in 2014, and now we're going to do it now. Is that really what this is about? I mean, this is not a country of NATO, right? But our allies, and then I heard Secretary of State talking about, 9/11, NATO flew some planes around, so we got to go over here now. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So anyway, Pentagon ordering that. Biden has consulted with key European leaders, underscoring solidarity with their allies. So on one hand, they say that they're gonna sanction Putin out of his military provocative actions, right? They're going to do that, right? But at the same time, they're sending troops over there, and this is going to do what? This is going to make things more heightened. Now, if you're trying to go to war, just say it, right? But don't do things that could be viewed as provocative and then say, oh my God, I don't know how this happened. We just fell into it, right? That's what they're going to do. First they said, we're going to sanction. We're going to get our sanction on. Now they're bringing troops. Obviously, they got some intel. Obviously, they have some information that has them concerned. So now they're bringing, 8,500 troops or having 8,500 troops get ready, tell their families, get ready. We might be leaving. They're going to need to deploy in like 5 days, if called. And if called, they say, they're not going to Ukraine, but they're going to go somewhere that NATO decides. Well, NATO's going to decide to send them to Ukraine, but we have these people that are in charge, and man, I know that I complained about Trump, and I'm complaining about Biden too, right? For different reasons, but I'm complaining nonetheless. So at stake is, beyond, I guess, the future of Ukraine is the credibility of NATO. This is really about ego, right? NATO, don't want to look like, just an empty group of letters. So they claim that it is central to the defense strategy, right? Putin views it as a Cold War tool, a relic, and he's threatened by it. So in their mind, they're trying to punk him down, and they think that this is the best way to do it. So, I mean, that's what it is. That's what it's going to be when we have all these grown men and women playing a game of chicken with real guns. Game of chicken. So for Biden, this crisis represents another major test in his ability to, have some type of a stance against Putin. I am not confident with his leadership in this regard. I'm very uncomfortable. We saw the debacle that was the withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's a Biden thing. I know they're going to blame it on Trump. But you can blame it on Bush too, but that's a Biden thing. He was the one there, the one in charge. So the Pentagon press secretary, John Kirby, said that these U.S.-based troops are being put on high alert for possible deployment. Okay. The other thing that they do that's really strange, when we have these military actions that we're taking, I mean, they do press conferences, they do all this kind of talking about it. And I guess part of that is because our adversaries watch our media. And this is also a way to communicate what we're going to do to them, right? But we ain't talking to them, but we talking to them at the same time because we know that they listen. That's what they do. That is a classic American strategy. For some strange reason, that is something that we do. Not quite sure
why that is, but that is something that we do. As I said, just tune in, your man Diamond K in here, the Diamond K Show, and we are talking about Commander-in-Chief. So crazy saying that. Commander-in-Chief Joe Biden and the Pentagon ordering 8,500 troops. They are on heightened alert right now amid this tension with Russia. So why are we having tension with Russia? That's a good question. If you're wondering why, Russia denies that it is planning an invasion. But I'm pretty sure that would always be the answer. Of course, they're not going to say we're going to invade. If Biden, just for contrast purposes, if Biden was invading, he would tell everybody, oh, yes, I'm going to invade. 2 months from now, on the third Tuesday of the month, I'm going to invade. Like he would just announce it. But Putin, whether he's going to invade or not, he obviously is not going to say it. He's going to say, we're not invading. No, well, us what invade? No, you're the ones invading. I mean that's their strategy. So John Kirby, Pentagon press secretary, announces that 8,500 U.S.-based troops have been put on alert for possible deployment, not to Ukraine, but to NATO territory in Eastern Europe. And they can't say exactly where because NATO's going to tell them where. So when it's convenient, NATO's calling the shots. And then when it's convenient, the U.S. is calling the shots. So but when it comes to a straight answer, U.S. is going to say, oh, we don't know. Now, keep in mind that the reasoning that they are using is that NATO got everybody back. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. But we are talking about a country. And listen, I mean, it's no, I don't want anything bad to happen to the folks of Ukraine. But if you're using the reasoning that this is about NATO and having each other's backs because NATO had our back during 9/11, Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So make that make sense. Anyway, it appears that out of one war, and we are getting ready to slip and fall into something else. And just like many wars, I don't even know why. And you're not even going to be able to make it make sense, right? You go back to World War I, people slipped and fell into World War I because of all these alliances. They mess with you, I'm going to jump in it. They mess with you, I'm going to jump in it, and this and that. And you can make all of these rationales for why that happened. Ferdinand got killed and his wife got killed and this country got mad. I mean, you can do that, right? But at the end of the day, it started because of some very weird delicate, confusing, convoluted alliances that one person attacked this person and then they jumped in and they jumped in because they jumped in and and then you got half the world in a war. Now, I'm just bringing up the past because the past is prologue. So Biden held an 80-minute video call. Can you imagine that? You saw how the press conference went that he was on for almost 2 hours. I can't even imagine how brutal an 80-minute video call with Biden is. But Biden held this 80-minute video call with several European leaders, and they talked about this Russian military buildup and potential responses to an invasion. He says that I had a very, very, very good meeting with all of the European leaders, Biden says. We'll talk about it later, whatever. The White House also said that the leaders emphasized their desire for a diplomatic solution to the crisis, but also discussed efforts to deter further aggression. So their stance, this is a classic stance, I suppose. They want to be strong but silent, I guess. I don't even understand what the strategy here is really. The only person that seems to have a strategy is Putin, right? Pulling all these strings. He just puts some people at the border and just watch everybody react. And then these people that are not thinking about this like chess, like clearly Russia is, we can stumble and make some kind of misstep, and then he can claim that we were the aggressors. I mean, I just want these people to think about what's happening. And if Joe Biden is in charge of the thinking, oh my God, just tuning in. Your man Don McKay in here, of course, the Don McKay Show on Fire Television and radioonfire.com. They say that they want diplomatic solutions, but they are getting ready to send almost 9,000 troops somewhere in Europe. It's not going to be in Ukraine, so they say. And then, of course, NATO puts them in Ukraine, and they're going to say, oh, we didn't put them there. NATO put them there. But a day earlier, the State Department had ordered the families of all American personnel at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev to leave the country. It's about to get ugly. This is what you do when conflict is getting ready to happen. You tell the diplomats and their families, time to go home. It's getting ready to get real. Ukraine's foreign ministry spokesman said that U.S. decision was a premature step and a sign of excessive caution. They're saying, of course, they want to say, let's bring the temperature down a little bit. I know what it looks like, but it ain't that bad. That's what Ukraine is trying to say. He also said that Russia was sowing panic among Ukrainians and foreigners in order to destabilize the country. And if that's what he's trying to do, it seems to be working. People are nervous. It feels like, if you talk to people in Washington, that we are, on the brink of war, on the brink of some type of armed conflict. Britain said it too was withdrawing some diplomats and dependents from the embassy. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said an invasion was not inevitable, but the intelligence is pretty gloomy. Intelligence is pretty gloomy. And of course, that has U.S. folks, Biden administration, running around in circles. Now, ordering even a modest number of American troops to be ready for potential deployment to Europe is meant to demonstrate the resolve of its NATO allies. So I guess they're trying to punk Putin, saying, look, having our troops getting ready. We getting ready to go down. You know what I mean? America's ready to come through. Are you going to back up now? Of course he's not going to back up now. They got their troops already there. Their troops are already getting ready. if you listen to mainstream reports, it's he's waiting for the sand, waiting for the mud to harden so they can come through. And if that's the case, then it's going to get real soon. Now, this move by the Pentagon, which was done at Biden's direction and on Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's recommendation, is being made with the NATO members. So there's always this mentality that nobody's making a move that's always in unison. That's the vibe that they always try to give off. I just don't know how how honest that actually is. I don't know how honest that actually is. When these things go down, I only see America. Now other countries may call America, hey, can you send this? Can you do that? But it's usually America doing the bulk of everything. NATO has not made a decision to activate the response force, which consists of about 40,000 troops from multiple nations. The force was enhanced in 2014, the year that Russia seized Ukraine's Crimea Peninsula. They ain't do nothing then, though. You know what I mean? It was a whole bunch of this same stuff that it is right now. We're going to sanction their socks off. So they enhanced the force, and they thought that the enhanced force, they didn't do nothing. Now that they're enhancing the enhanced force, now Putin's going to be scared. Yeah, all right. So anyway, they created this force, right? And in support of the pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine, they spearheaded a force of 20,000 troops, high alert, large response, blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, here we are again. And if NATO does decide to activate the response force, the United States will contribute a range of military units. So they activate their force. We're going to put our 8,500 troops in with them. And then what happens? Nothing. Probably nothing. Putin doesn't want a war, but what he's probably banking on is the fact that they ain't going to do nothing because they don't want a war either. And there's not really something we can go to war for. I think that he's going to do what he's going to do, and they're just going to sit there and do nothing about it because they think that this quote unquote show of force is going to be enough to get him to do what they want him to do. And I just don't think it's going to work out that way. I don't think it's going to work out that way. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. Let's do this, take a quick break, and we are going to come back with more of the show. Listen to The Diamond K Show here on firetelevision.com. Welcome back. Amen. Diamond K in here. The Diamond K Show on firetelevision.com. Sad news out of Baltimore. 3 firefighters dead, 1 in critical condition following a row home fire in West Baltimore. Just a sad story. So these 3 firefighters were killed. And of course, the danger of this job, but that does not prepare you for hearing about the loss of life. So these firefighters that were killed, and the one that was seriously critically injured. This came from the partial collapse of a building. So they're battling the fire, and this fire is in a vacant row home. Plenty of those in Baltimore. So this is in, as I said, in West Baltimore. During a press conference, the mayor, Brandon Scott, and the Baltimore City Fire Department, they released the names of the victims. And today, Baltimore has lost 3 of the bravest among us. And like I said, just a sad thing. They made the ultimate sacrifice, and for that, Baltimore owes them the deepest gratitude and respect. The mayor said about this tragedy, and it's just very, very unfortunate, very sad news. Of course, let us know your thoughts. Give us condolences at the Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire, or just post it in the comment section. Do this. We'll take a quick break. Come back with more of the show after this. Welcome back. Welcome back. Of course, if you miss any episodes of the program, you can always go to youtube.com/DJ Diamond K. Now, we've been talking about some of these stories, and another story that has, to me, it's been an ongoing story. The other former police officers that were, I guess, on site for the murder of George Floyd. The prosecutors in the trial of these former Minneapolis officers who are charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights. These guys, their case was pushed back, I guess, until they said that the tensions went down some. That's why this trial is happening now. So you have that going on. Now the defense attorneys, they countered these opening statements that were made by the prosecution that the former officer's trial. You have this back and forth of these openings, and I don't know how long this is going to go on. I don't know if folks are as involved emotionally because there's so much going on right now. But this is definitely something that we're going to be watching. The officers are broadly charged with depriving George Floyd of his civil rights while acting under government authority. Of course, George Floyd died in May of 2020 after Derek Chauvin pressed him to the ground with his knee on Floyd's neck for 9.5 minutes. The 46-year-old Floyd was face down, handcuffed, and gasping for air. One of these officers knelt on Floyd's back. One officer held his legs, and the other kept bystanders from intervening. So these guys weren't just standing by the wayside doing nothing. They were actively involved in some way, shape, or form. Of course, Chauvin was convicted of murder and manslaughter last year in state court in the videotaped killing. This videotaped killing triggered worldwide protests and a reexamination of policing and racism in America. Chauvin pleaded guilty to the federal count of violating Floyd's civil rights. So what happens here? Are these guys going to get convicted? Oh, they deserve to be convicted. They deserve to be convicted. So we're going to have to see if that is what is going to happen. So this case, there's going to be a lot in this case. I mean, I don't see how they can demonize George Floyd any worse than they did in the previous trial. But they may go back to some of those tactics. Whenever you have a black person killed, that is usually how this goes. They demonize the victim, demonized the deceased. So the videotape kind of says it all. And these officers are shown on the tape. George Floyd being held on the ground at the arrival of paramedics. The video shows one of the officers at Floyd's feet. At times, he was holding one of Floyd's legs, his calf. At times, his hands were not on George Floyd at all. And at times, he appeared to be squatting or standing. The murder took so long that the officer got tired and had to take a break. Last week, 18 people were quickly chosen for the jury. 12 will deliberate and 6 will be alternates. 2 of the jurors, one expected to deliberate and one alternate, appeared to be of Asian descent. The rest appeared to be white. The court declined to provide demographic information, but it is clear to see there are no black people on that jury. And I don't know whether that will play a part in things or not, whether that will satisfy folks or not, depending on what the verdict is. The judge told jurors that the trial could last 4 weeks. So this could be a month-long trial. And one of the officers is going to testify. It's not known if all of them will. It's not clear whether the convicted murderer, Chauvin, will testify. But according to many experts, he is not going to testify. We'll see about that. I don't expect that he will. But you never know. These officers also face a separate trial, state trial, in June on charges that they aided and abetted both murder and manslaughter. So if any of you thought that they were going to get off easy and just, fade into the background, not so fast. The defense said that Chauvin called all of the shots. Of course, Chauvin did it all. These guys did nothing. That's kind of how they're going to paint this thing. That's kind of how they're going to paint this. But we're going to have to see if this jury, mostly white, 2 of Asian descent, if that's how this goes down, if that's how this thing rolls out. I don't know. I mean, he may have called the shots. He may have been the one, calling the shots. But that's usually the MO in these kind of cases. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok at The Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire, of course. OnFireTelevision.com is where you go. I will be back here tomorrow with more of the program.